Evening. Welcome. I'm Betsy Stites, President of the Woodbury Cottage Grove Area League of Women Voters, which also includes St. Paul Park and Newport. The purpose of the League, both at the national, state, and local level, is to empower voters and defend democracy. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization. Its mission is to encourage informed and active participation of citizens in government, work to increase understanding of major policy issues, and influence public policy through education and advocacy. The League strengthens our communities by promoting voter registration, candidate forums such as tonight, and informing voters on public policy through education. And now I'm going to turn it over to Liz Nordland, who is our moderator tonight and has been doing this for years, so she is a real expert. Tonight we're going to cover the Newport Mayor and City Council. Thank you for watching.
Good evening and welcome to this League of Women Voters Forum for the candidates in the November election for Mayor and City Council of the City of Newport. This forum is being broadcast live on Channel 18, which is Comcast, and Channel 8542 for CenturyLink by the South Washington County Telecommunications Commission, SWCTC. It will also be live web streamed on the SWCTC website. The order for speaking tonight will begin in alphabetical order and will be rotated thereafter. Candidates' remarks are being timed to assure equality of time. The seating for the candidates follows suggested guidelines. Questions have been submitted via the local League's website, but questions may also be called or texted in during the live forum at the phone number that you see at the bottom of your screen, 612-756-8164. I will tell you that we prefer if they are text instead of called in, but if it's necessary for you to call, we will take those too. The candidates are, for Mayor, Lori Elliott and Dan Lund. For the City Council, Kevin Chaptelaine, Nathan Knox, Bill Sumner, and Marvin Taylor. We'll now begin with opening statements, and we will start with our two mayor candidates, and we will start with Lori Elliott.
Thank you. My name is Lori Elliott. I'm a Newport City Council member, and I'm running for mayor. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this forum. It's an important way for the community to learn about the candidates, and thank you to those of you who are taking time to watch it on a rebroadcast. My background is I have over 25 years of experience in city government. I've worked for 3 different cities, the cities of Moorhead, Maplewood, and the city of Shoreview, where I worked there as their human resources director. This has really given me a unique point of view, seeing the inside of a city as well as serving on a city council. And I would bring that experience with me as mayor of Newport. I've also served on the Newport Planning Commission and am currently the council liaison for the Library Board and Park Board. I've lived in Newport for over 30 years and I've seen a lot of changes. And I'm running because I want to use my skills and work experience in my own community. And I have a collaborative, problem-solving work style, and I look for creative solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next with his opening statement is Dan Lund.
Hi, I'm Newport Mayor Dan Lund, and I would also like to offer thanks to Liz and the League of Women Voters, and also SWCTC for putting this forum on and for your work over the many years of supporting democracy. It has been my absolute privilege to serve Newport over the last 4 years as mayor. And with your support, I would like the opportunity to continue to do so. Newport is a great city. We have great volunteers. We have enthusiastic council members and planning commissioners, and everyone at the table tonight has been a big part of that success. So I will be listening tonight. I'm excited that we have competitive races. I think that's good for the city, and I'm looking forward to hearing from everyone. So thank you everyone for being here, throwing your hat in the ring, and looking forward to a spirited discussion.
Thank you. Next we will hear from our City Council candidates, and we will begin with Kevin Chaptelaine.
Thank you very much. I would also like to thank League of Women Voters and the Washington County Telecommunication Commission for putting in the hard work to do this for us tonight. My name is Kevin Chapdelaine. I've been in Newport politics since 1994, both with Newport and around South Washington County. I've acted as mayor for 8 years in city council, was on the planning commission. I'm presently on the South Washington Watershed District Board and serve in a variety of other capacities that the council seat will bring to it. And I think the point I try to make with that is in this case, I think experience matters. And that's part of what I'm offering. I've been around a long time. I have a lot of relationships with a lot of people throughout the neighboring communities in the county and the school district and all about. And I think I've really made that work well for the city of Newport. And I think that's what I bring to the table. And I'm really looking forward to serving the community for 4 more years. Thank you.
Thank you. Next with his opening statement is Nathan Knox.
Hello everyone, my name is Nathan Knox. I'm a current member of Newport Library Advisory Committee. And as some of you may know, I have ran a last election, and I'd like to thank SWTCT and League of Women Voters for, and everyone else involved for allowing this meeting to get ready. Also, we are experiencing our fair share of pain of a coronavirus outbreak. My first priority, if elected, is you. I will promise you this, to ensure that local, state, and federal funds will ensure that no one in Newport will go homeless. Also, I will fight to have a Newport LWV stay in here. And also, if elected, I also donate half of my salary to gift cards for local businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Next with his opening statement is Bill Sumner.
Hello, I'm Bill Sumner, and with 12 years of consecutive service to Newport residents, it's a wonderful time for me to be running for re-election to the council. Multiple accomplishments fall under 3 key areas: financial, safety, and inclusion. Financial. Carefully watching expenses and making wise investments has given increased revenue to do needed projects. Safety. I supported increased pay to the firefighters to better recruit and retain members. Having the Washington County Sheriff's Office has brought us a very professional law enforcement. Inclusion. The opening of the 200-unit Wings of Newport site allows people whose lives include a physical or other challenge to live, as Senator Carla Bigham said, in a place with dignity. And because of my work with the Kaposha Band, I was invited to attend a blessing of their sacred red rock by their most spiritual leader, Chief Standing Horse.
Thank you. Next with his opening statement is Marvin Taylor.
Hi, thank you for organizing this forum. I moved to Newport 7 years ago with my wife, who was a public librarian, and 2 kids, and I've added a third since then, all 3 in South Washington County schools. By education, I studied geography at the University of Minnesota, focusing on economic development. By profession, I'm a union carpenter, currently building 23 townhomes in Woodbury. I have a broad commitment to public service, enlisting in the National Guard at the age of 17, where I served for 9 years. I've served on the Planning Commission Newport for 5 years, and on the fire department for the past 3.5 years. While I appreciate the service of my fellow incumbents, I think I've listened to many people in this town. I think it's time for a new voice for Newport, and I think I offer the best opportunity to hear and be responsive to the concerns of all people in Newport. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now go with questions, and this question goes to Lori Elliott first. What is your priority for using Newport's share of the money from the 3M settlement for cleaning up the groundwater?
Well, I think we have 2 areas that we'd like to spend that money on. One is to make sure that our wells and our water system are protected. And in order to do that, we've got, Kevin will probably speak to this because he does work with the Water Commission on this particular matter. But I think the other piece is some of this money can be used for improving access to the Mississippi River. And so I think we would also be looking for that with any money that isn't spent on well and water improvements.
Thank you. The question now goes to Nathan Knox.
What was the question again?
What is your priority for using Newport's share of the money from the 3M settlement for cleaning up the groundwater?
My first priority is to make sure that at least half of that money goes to COVID relief, so our businesses and community are not negatively affected by this unfortunate pandemic. And also, I believe that the funds should also be appropriate to better management of our park systems and possible upgrades.
Thank you. The question now goes to Marvin Taylor.
I think the biggest part of this is water supply. While I'm a big fan of river access, water supply is going to be a critical long-term issue. And right now in Newport, we haven't had the same impact with the municipal wells as our neighbors to the south. But this issue has hit home in Newport for me personally because my well has been contaminated by the PFAS. So the notion that this is not in Newport is inaccurate. And I appreciate the work of Councilor Chapdelaine in addressing this issue and helping to bring this issue to the fore. So I think this is something that we can't base our planning on the present water results. We need to, again, focus on the water supply, making sure that we can connect in other supplies if necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. The question now goes to Bill Sumner.
I've been involved with clean water in Newport for a long time. Before the concerns about the PFAS began, I was involved looking at the wellhead protection. Right now, we need to look at ways that we can interconnect with either Cottage Grove and or Woodbury to ensure clean water to the Newport residents. There's also been mention about a small portion of this is going to provide access to various recreational options. But the main thing is clean water to the residents of Newport.
Thank you. The question now goes to Kevin Chapdelaine.
Thank you. As some have stated, I've actually been representing the city of Newport in a couple of different committees that are addressing this for South Washington County, so I got a slightly unfair advantage. And just this past week, the state agencies, the co-trustees, have come out with the list of preferred projects. It's not an absolute. Newport is on the list to get an interconnect with Woodbury's water system, which I've been working very, very, very hard on to get with Carla Bingham's help. We're going to continue to work for an interconnect with the city of Cottage Grove, and that should give us more than our capacity of clean water and let us offer clean water to those communities if it's ever needed. Both of those communities will end up on a filtered drinking water system, so if our wells ever go bad, we'll be able to open a valve, close the valve, and be back in business. There is a $20 million amount of funds available for various recreational and water access uses that will not be any larger. It will be at $20 million, but it's dedicated for that, so I'm hoping Newport gets a little of that as well.
Thank you. The question now goes to Dan Lund.
Well, I want to thank Councilmember Chapdelaine for his work on the 3M committee. I know it's been a lot of hours. He's been attending not only the government officials meetings, but also the public meetings. So it's been quite a time commitment, and certainly he's been great servicing Newport in that regard. It's kind of a two-part issue. There's the private wells, like Commissioner Taylor, and then there's the municipal wells. And luckily, the municipal wells in Newport have tested good. But as Councilmember Chapdelaine will say, it's so far. And so we'll get to the private wells in a moment, but for the municipal wells, what we need is resiliency, and we need testing. And resiliency comes from the interconnects that Councilmember Chapdelaine is talking about, and it also comes from ensuring there's enough money left over that if something happens in Newport, that we'll be able to address it. So in addition to connecting private wells to municipal water source and or filtering, we just have to be ready to take care of the problem if it comes to Newport.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments? And we'll move on to the next question, and it goes to Dan Lund first.
All right.
Newport wants to encourage growth and development. What are your priorities and strategies for helping achieve this objective?
Well, I think this is a great question. You're going to see some diversity of opinion on this question. And my perspective has stayed consistent since I've been on the council and even before my time on the council. And that is, any growth and development that comes to Newport needs to be to the advantage of the people and taxpayers who are already here when it comes. You know, once someone comes, then they're one of us, and their perspective matters too. But before they're here, it's really, is this a good deal for the people already here or not? With that in mind, we spent significant money to get sewer and water up to the Bailey Meadows area, and that's already paying us back. We're getting a significant increase to our tax base, which is allowing us to tackle huge infrastructure issues. I think the development that we're going to spend a lot of time thinking about and talking about is by the transit station, and that will come with no new taxes, so I don't see that in the same light as privately funded development. So it's difficult to take on that burden of new residents without the tax base behind it.
Thank you. The question now goes to Marvin Taylor.
My main focus in this development is to focus on the commercial corridors in the town. 7th Avenue and Hastings really haven't changed fundamentally since the Highway 61 reconstruction, since the reworking of the Dakota Bridge. Certainly in my 7 years, I've only seen things on the periphery of that redevelop. And so I think we need to be committed to that development. And I think the area that's most critical to focus on is near the transit site. That is where we've set up an economic partnership with the county to redevelop. It's where councils prior to the current body sitting before us has committed to, and I think we need to see that commitment through. That is the best node for development. I think from there, it builds into the new City Hall, Fire Hall, and it can start to spread. But if we don't start there, those areas will continue to be neglected into the future.
Thank you. The question now goes to Nathan Knox.
All right. I believe our best chance for economic growth is to simplify the tax base at best as well as possible level to our maximum growth opportunity, but also respecting the city and neighbors and nature itself. I believe that is a delicate balance, especially with the unfortunate COVID situation, but I believe we can do it. And I believe a waterfront Mississippi River is a prime real estate opportunity for business growth and opportunity. And I would like to see like a hybrid housing and retail units around the Mississippi area. So I think that is a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you. The question now goes to Lori Elliott.
Thank you. Well, I think I agree with what Marvin Taylor had to say about not much change happening along Hastings Avenue and along 7th. If I'm mayor, I would like to go out and visit some of our existing businesses, find out what attracted them to Newport, why they decided to come to our community, what their plans are for the future, what they do as a business, and how we can support them to be successful. I'd also like to create a list of vacant properties, also of smaller spaces that are for rent for small-time or startup businesses. And I'd like to have that list on our website as well as shared with the Washington County Community Development Agency. So when businesses are looking for space, Newport is on their list of places to consider. I think the last thing, I would like to kind of spruce up our entrances to Newport and improve that entry image, because when new businesses are looking for a place to come to, that says something. It tells them that they're in a welcoming community. And that's the end of my time. Thank you.
Thank you. Question now goes to Bill Sumner.
Yes, since I've been on the council, we've removed a waste facility from the middle of a residential area, and now that's a large, probably over 5 acres that's available. We entertained one possible business, but it must have fallen through on their end, so that is a site that's available. Also, I supported the Dogs at Play, which has been a very successful business on Hastings Avenue. And we're continuing to entertain prospective development. As I said earlier, the wings of Newport on the north end of town, underneath of the power lines, that was a very challenging location, but we brought in a 200-unit development that's going to be very good for Newport. Those are the kinds of things that I've been involved with and will continue to look forward to bringing into Newport.
Thank you. The question now goes to Kevin Chapdelaine.
Thank you. The thing about development is you often get one chance. You might get one chance in 50 years to develop a property, so you got to get it right. And a lot of the comments I heard around me are spot on, and you can tell there's a lot of emotion and interest in the subject because it is so important, and financially it's so important for the community. So we've done some recent development, and I'm a big fan of what we've done, the Bailey Meadows and the workforce housing and the wings of Newport that's been mentioned. They're all good projects. We have some open land that we would like to see developed, and I think the biggest mistake we could make is to rush into it. I think we need to really take a look at what we have and what the value that we have close to cities that we have, the transportation corridor that we can offer, and wait for the right type of development to hit each of these areas. And I don't think maximizing every square foot of height or width or residential unit or whatever the case may be is necessarily what we want, as the mayor mentioned earlier. It's got to be good for the community all the way around.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments? And we'll move on to the next question. It goes to Kevin Chapdelaine first. How would you address the needs of local businesses that are struggling for survival during this COVID-19 pandemic?
It's a pretty topical question for our times, isn't it? The CARES Act, we're still learning a little bit about the financial impact the community can have and you know, what we can do with that money, whether we get it to the businesses. We might have to run that through Washington County to get that to the businesses. We're still, I think our council meeting this week, we're going to discuss it some more. But that's one opportunity for us. I think there's a lot of other opportunities we can have just in continuing to build a strong economic city and try to keep our taxes as low as possible and keep our businesses as viable as we possibly can with a solid economy, a local solid economy. So, but we do need to learn a lot more about this CARES Act, and I feel a little bit weak on that one right now. So.
Thank you. The question now goes to Nathan Knox.
Thank you. My plan is to use every available resource in manpower for federal, local, and state funds to help Newport businesses and people of Newport are struggling because we are in the midst of a crisis right now that is unfortunately been overlooked. But I will help, I promise you, if elected, I'll make sure we stabilize the economic situation of Newport and make sure no one goes homeless. And also, we need a plan how to mitigate this in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. The question now goes to Marvin Taylor.
This is a difficult question for me. I mean, I have not worked with the CARES Act as much as obviously have not worked with it at all, unlike the council. I think so. I'm just going to focus on the broader. I can't really address the immediacy of it, but I think that if we can focus our development again near those commercial corridors, longer term, I think we put more residential at maybe medium density in proximity to our retail, our restaurants. Those are the customers that are going to go and support them, and that's one of my concerns. You know, I like what we've done up at Bailey Meadows, but I expect most of that money to flow up to Radio and Bailey. You know, up into Woodbury. So I think if we really focus, that's something we can do longer term by linking things closer in closer proximity. But yes, the short term, it is a struggle, and I don't have any answers.
Thank you. The question now goes to Dan Lund.
Thank you. So we work closely with our other government partners in administration of the CARES Act and response to the COVID-19 pandemic, both from a safety perspective and from a financial perspective. We're relying on the county at this point because they're set up to provide direct assistance to businesses, and so we're pointing Newport businesses to Washington County. In their first round of funding, their funds weren't entirely used up, so they opened up a second round of funding. Certainly, we have CARES Act money, and if that need is there, that's something we'll absolutely consider, and I expect we would provide more funding. At this point, it's communication. It's ensuring that the businesses know that those opportunities are available and getting that out to them. More immediately, we cut liquor license fees, and we even called a special meeting to allow the North Pole to open when they were allowed to only have patio seating. And so we're doing what we can, and certainly having the lines of communication open with our businesses is probably most important at this point.
Thank you. The question now goes to Lori Elliott.
Thank you. So I work for another city, and so we're pretty involved in the CARES Act dollars that are coming to our community, and any idea that we're doing, I pass on to Newport staff as well to take advantage of those funds coming into our community. The Washington County Business Grant Program did reopen, and it did reopen to employers with more than, I think it's up to 100 employees. I wish we had a contact list for the businesses in our communities so we could be emailing that information directly out to those businesses. And I know the initial email I got said only one Newport business had taken advantage of this. I posted on my Facebook to get in and do this if you're a business that was struggling. And I saw in the next round there were 4 Newport businesses had applied for some funding through that. I think we need to encourage local spending. As Dan mentioned, we've opened up some patio seating, and we're open to other requests to help local governments, local businesses in any way to help them through this COVID crisis.
Thank you. The question now goes to Bill Sumner.
Yes, Newport has long had a facade improvement fund to assist local businesses to look more appealing. Several have taken advantage of that, and it still exists. And also, when I was first elected, we removed several burdens that had been placed on local businesses. We need to keep constantly looking for things that are slowing down the ability of our local businesses to act in an open and inviting and successful and prosperous manner. I guarantee you that I will continue to do that on behalf of the businesses that have supported me fully in the past.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments? Then we'll move on to the next question, and it goes to Bill Sumner first. Do you support the Newport Transit Station TIF development plan?
Which development? CS?
TF development plan.
TIF.
TIF. TIF. TIF, okay. There are portions and parts of the TIF program that are very complicated. I don't want to say without reservation, without looking at the options that are presented to us, that I support it. The fact that it does in fact tie up money that would be local taxes that would come to the city if the city was operating the TIF, and instead they're going to the county, is of a great concern to me. So I need to see all the details in order to make a comment for that option. Madam Moderator.
Thank you. The question now goes to Marvin Taylor.
I do support the TIF district. Again, I believe this is something that we've committed to in partnership with Washington County, and we need to see it through. Do we need to embrace the initial ideas and plans? Not necessarily. We can adapt and evolve. And I think this is something that I've tried to work on, try to get my head around, and even most recently at the last Planning Commission meeting, we're thinking about the design guidelines for that area. Trying to come up with new ideas, maybe perhaps some new plan use development framework to make it a district so that we can enforce kind of a mixed use in that area to alleviate concerns that have been emphasized about apartment after apartment. We've shrunk that transit site down to that small area, really trying to focus it in on about 10 acres. And so I think we need to see this through. It's not going to happen without public investment. And this is our gateway. We can't leave it sit there in a kind of a dilapidated state. So yes, there'll be expense, but in the long run, once that TIF is paid off, we will have a great spot in Newport.
Thank you. The question now goes to Dan Lund.
No, I do not support the TIF. In fact, I work with the local business owners to prepare a lawsuit against it. Frankly, if it went forward as written, it would be a financial disaster for the city. When the TIF idea first came about with a partnership with the county, it was going to cost about $7 million. We were going to have a hotel, we were going to have coffee shops, and we were going to have a train station. At the time, people didn't understand the difference between a light rail station and a commuter rail. As it turned out, the commuter rail was never going to happen either. The TIF plan as written includes 442 units of housing. It includes no retail or mixed-use development, and frankly, the city doesn't have the power to bring that to a place where the market won't bring it on its own. And it will cost up to $25.9 million in Newport's money. That represents more than 20% of Newport's tax base according to the plan itself, and that eliminates our ability to do other things in other areas of town that I think are more important, including on 7th Ave and Hastings Avenue.
Thank you. The question now goes to Kevin Chapdelaine.
Thank you. I do support it conditionally. Like I was saying a little while ago when we were talking about development specifically, we don't have to build everything to its maximum height and its maximum density, and I think doing it smart and doing it well is exactly what we want to be doing. And I think using TIF as the spur and as the financial stimulus to get it done is a very good idea. And I think the plan that was put in place was a good plan, but the city retains land use control. So if we get a project in front of us that we don't like, we don't have to accept it, or we can work with the developer to modify it. It needs to be mixed use. It needs to have some retail. It needs to have some business, and it needs to have some housing in a variety of standards, and I would rather not see any subsidized housing. I think Newport already has affordable housing as a natural component of its older housing stock. We do not have to contribute to affordable housing throughout the metropolitan area, and I think we can come up back with the partnership with the Washington County CDA and the City of Newport with a very nice project.
Thank you. The question now goes to Nathan Knox.
Thank you. I support the TIF project, but cautiously. I echo some concerns that Mayor Dan won. That is because I also heard from businesses that they're not pleased with the current TIF proposal, and I believe it does need some adjustments. But I don't want it to be approved until we know there's a compromise that could agree with both the community, city, and businesses around here. And I believe TIF should include a mixed-use building with a transit center, train station if need be. Also, first or second floor with businesses on it, and also a third or fourth floor with housing units on it. So thank you.
Thank you. The question now goes to Lori Elliott.
Thank you. I do support the TIF district. I did meet with the Washington County CDA to get a little more information about what's going on there. So far, the county has invested $2 million in the district, and of that amount, we owe $1.2 million back to the county. That is currently being paid off by the apartment building that sits on the transit site, and it's going to take about 25 years to pay that off. If we put 2 more compatible buildings of similar size, and let's just say similar payoff, and the one building's paying at about $50,000 a year. If we have 2 more paying, and we're paying off that loan at $150,000 a year, we can pay that off in 8 or 9 years, so about a third the time, and that money will then come back into the city coffers. If we build nothing there, it means we're going to wait up to 25 years, and our rate of return is only going to be about $50,000 at the end of that 25 years. So I see this as a real gain for taxpayers, that we can bring that money back into the city coffers sooner by doing a little bit more construction over there.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments? Yes, Dan Lund.
Well, it's not so much a rebuttal, but I think this issue is important enough that I'd like another moment. So far, the 1.2 million, I agree with that. I think that's a manageable amount for the city. The way the TIF plan is written is the additional money was going to be spent speculatively before we had a development project in hand. Mm-hmm. And hopefully the people at this table agree somewhat that we need to see what we're getting if we're going to spend more money to buy out the businesses that are already there. And as far as jobs go, Wilson Lines is one of the biggest and best paying employers in the city. They have 120 employees, and they're hiring drivers at $60,000 to $80,000 a year.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Lori.
Dan is absolutely correct that the original TIF agreement was done on speculation, and that agreement was that the county anticipated bonding $15 million to get the TIF district completely ready for all of the construction he talked about. That was anticipating a light rail or some sort of transit stop, which did not come to fruition, and they estimated about $10 million in interest on that $15 million bond. We don't see anything like what they originally anticipated, so I just can't imagine that we would ever hit that $15 million or $25 million number. Thank you.
Anyone else? And we'll move on to the next question, and it goes to Marvin Taylor first. What can be done to clean up Newport?
I think this is mostly about code enforcement. I've had this, it's a struggle. I mean, I think there are eyes that get cast about, and I remember being probably the most recent resident to move to Newport 7 years ago, And there was a lot I was kind of like, ooh, this is kind of not sure about this town. And that impression is something that a lot of people coming seeing it for the first time see. But I think there is the balancing act, that we are not looking to have every lawn perfectly manicured and, every yard look like maybe Woodbury. So I think we're struggling. I think what I've talked to residents about this, and people feel strongly on both sides, but I think what we need to do is, I'd like to see how other smaller communities like ours are taking on in code enforcement and try to figure out what model's best and communicate, if we can adopt that model and keep that model the same for an extended period so that the residents know what it is being done. I think that's part of the confusion, is a lot of changes about who's enforcing.
Thank you. The question now goes to Lori Elliott.
Oh, thank you. Several times staff tried to bring the code enforcement ordinance to the full council in a workshop session, and it was really unmanageable with so many of us there. And it was my suggestion that we have two members of the council sit down with staff as well as the code enforcement officer from Cottage Grove, because he does the code enforcement work in Newport, and to really do a deep dive into what the current code says, and to learn more about Newport challenges, learn more about code enforcement challenges, and to come back with a recommendation to the council. So I look forward to seeing that. I also consider myself to be a creative problem solver. So to me, if we're going to have to go to a property that is struggling to meet our codes, I always like to try to find some sort of balancing piece to help them out. And some of the things we hear about are junk in yards. And several cities do what's known as a cleanup day. And I'd really be interested in doing something like that allows people to get large piece of furniture, appliances, mattresses, and things like that off their property. And we could partner with another community to do that, or we could do it on our own. Thank you.
Thank you. The question now goes to Kevin Chapdelaine.
Thank you. This is kind of a cop-out, but I do agree with almost everything that's been said already, so I don't want to re-say those statements. It's a lot more difficult to take a 150-year-old community and a 150-year diversity of housing stock and lot sizes and street widths and everything else that makes Newport cool, and take a Woodbury-style code enforcement code and implement it. So it's a lot more challenging for us to do this. And as Councilmember Elliott said, the mayor and I sat down with code enforcement folks and we're working through it. Every 2 years, this council changes, and every 2 years, when there's some new people, there's a different attitude. And 2 years ago, we didn't have the votes to get it where we can maybe get it now. So that's why we're here now, almost in the end of an election season, still working on it. But it's vastly important. I've been saying since I first got involved with Newport politics that we need to take ourselves seriously if we expect anybody else to take us seriously.
Thank you. The question now goes to Nathan Knox.
Thank you. I believe code enforcement and cleanliness of Newport is also very important. First, I would like to propose, if elected, I will put forth a resolution of a creation of a code enforcement and moderation committee that is elected by the people. That have terms of 4 years. And also, I believe we need a more concrete street caps around most of Newport, because some people are complaining that it's also making Newport look bad. And also, a cleanup day would also be very good, like Buckthorn Day. We have a trash cleanup day also for Buckthorn Day, or Junk Center Day. Thank you.
Thank you. The question now goes to Dan Lund.
So I'm going to take a little broader look at this question. I think code enforcement is important, but it's probably the last choice on how to beautify a city. I think Newport's got a special character. We have our boats, our RVs, our ATVs, and that's something we want to keep. We're never going to be Woodbury. I didn't want to live in Woodbury, even though my first job out of college was in Woodbury. So Newport's for me, and we don't need to change that. One of the best things we do that improves the look of a neighborhood naturally is infill construction. When a new home goes in, the surrounding properties tend to take note and clean up their yards, and also it makes investment in those properties viable. We also do code enforcement. We started sweeps 3 years ago, and that continues. You know, we're being less aggressive during COVID, but that's an important part of it. Probably the most challenging are the properties that plain don't listen when the city comes by. And so as part of the discussion Councilmember Chaplin and I are having is we're gonna work on an abatement property, or abatement of those properties. If you're a problem to the entire neighborhood, the city is gonna have to step up its efforts.
Thank you. The question now goes to Bill Sumner.
Well, the Washington County Sheriff's Office has been helping with code enforcement, and they are very diligent in wanting to know exactly what the law requires them to do. And I've appreciated that aspect of the sergeant who oversees the Newport officers, deputies. And we are clarifying that. We know that there are some extreme situations in Newport that need to be addressed. However, a lot of people have varying lifestyles. And recently there's been an increased interest in habitat for pollinators, which certainly causes grass and so forth, flowers to be above 8 inches tall, which is in the code. And I've been practicing habitat for pollinators for a long time, so I want to see a relaxing of the codes to recognize that that's an important part of our environment.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments? Yes, Kevin Chapdelaine.
Very quickly going to tell Bill that that's a conversation we just had last week. We're going to be looking at how do we deal with the 21st century lawn.
Thank
And
you.
that's what you're talking about.
Yep, I've been dealing with it.
Anyone else?
I'm done.
Yes, Bill Sumner.
Thank you for addressing something I've been dealing with for my entire life.
Any other comments? Then we'll move on to the next question, and it goes to Lori Elliott first. What will you do to bring business back to Newport Center?
Well, I think we've talked a little bit about bringing business and business health already tonight, and some of this will be a reiteration of that, but I think we need to get the word out about what Newport has to offer. We've got a high traffic lane. I know the gas station at the south end is very popular for people to stop by, and once we get them off the highway, there's more businesses there that can take advantage of that. So I think we've got some retail space that's open, and I think we just need to get that word out to people who are looking for locations to put new business. And I think we need to let them know we're a business-friendly community. And when the Wings of Newport opened, Chris Onken had, rave reviews for working with our staff in constructing that $20 million apartment complex. And I was just very pleased to hear that. And we want businesses to know that we will work with you and our staff will work with you and help make you a success.
Thank you. The question now goes to Dan Lund.
Thank you. Retail's been a big challenge since the Highway 61 reconstruction. I know all the businesses experienced quite a loss as a result of the change in traffic flow. The factors that go into retail investment are traffic, rooftops, and income. And the traffic is not coming back to the Highway 61 corridor. It's now a freeway, and it's not an easy on and off. So that's a challenge, and that's a challenge that'll be around for a long time. I think we need to continue our city efforts with a facade rent improvement program when it's a welcoming place. That helps businesses come. I think the farmers market is a wonderful thing that draws people in and lets people know what a great community is. And then I think we need to continue to have the conversations with the businesses that are there and the Norths who own the Newport Center to hear if there's anything more we can be doing to help them as they look to fill up the space.
Thank you. The question now goes to Kevin Chapdelaine.
Thank you. Strong business follows strong business. And I'm going to go back to development a little bit with that statement, in that I think keep working on trying to infill in some of our business communities. Our Hastings and our 7th Avenue has as much opportunity for infill business as our neighborhoods have had for infill housing. And that's worked out very well, as the mayor stated. I also think we have some larger properties on both sides of the highway that are totally underutilized. And getting some housing and some business in there, I mean, we bring more wallets in. If we bring employees in, we bring citizens in, and all these wallets are now in Newport where they can spend some money and spend some time. So I think the whole thing is a little bit of an opportunity where we just kind of need to keep doing what we're doing And I do agree, working with our businesses and doing a lot of the things we've already been doing, but just maybe do more of it and keep on keeping on.
Thank you. The question now goes to Marvin Taylor.
Part of the nice thing about being on the planning commission is we get to step back sometimes and think the big picture a lot. And it's hard when Newport, because the need is so pervasive. It's spread out, and it's sometimes you can get overwhelmed by where to start. And I think we've, again, started the bookends, and honestly, it's like we've had a hard time thinking about Hastings Avenue in particular. Where to start? It's such a mixed use of houses, different, age businesses. And there was a vision in the 2030 comp plan to address it, but it never was actioned. And so I think, more recently I've been focusing on the other side a little bit more on 7th, because I think it is a little easier to focus when you have the large lots without much there. But ultimately the goal is I think Hastings has to be where we get the development. I think, part of that is saying no, like issues such as Croy Holdings, bringing an end to some of the non-conforming uses which become a deterrent to other businesses in that area. And I really appreciate the work of the council and stepping up on that particular issue as well.
Thank you. The question now goes to Bill Sumner.
Yes, bringing in more business to Newport Center, it's nice for us to sit here and talk about it, but they have professional realtors that are trying to fill the vacant spaces. Currently, they have some unique restaurants, the Pizza Place and the Newport's North Pole Restaurant. The North Pole Restaurant is filled to capacity as it can possibly be during the COVID time. And I am quite certain that when COVID is listed and they can have as many people in the restaurant, that parking lot will once again be packed to fullness on the weekends. Now, we on the council have to be ready to remove any barriers, and I suppose we can go out and just ask businesses what is the problem for them. We've heard over the years, I've been involved with acting to remove barriers. And we've got a developer interested in the old truck site on the north side of town by the Glen Road interchange.
Thank you. The question now goes to Nathan Knox.
Thank you. I believe a development Newport Center is very important because we were unfortunate once John bought the hardware in early 2019. It's pretty kind of empty void space. I wanna put together a temporary committee, if elected, to feasible how we can improve that site. And also one of my ideas about the bridges is to put an advertising sign so I get those TV signs so I can Times Square in New York City. And also with microphones and speakers on see also committee say we can retrofit safely retrofit the bridges in our city to have advertising capabilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any additional comments? Yes, Lori Elliott.
Dan mentioned that traffic really isn't coming back into Newport since the big freeway drive-through. But I think this is somewhere where we can look for some sort of a destination type business that would bring people in to Newport. I've heard several comments about a grocery store, an Aldi store. I've done a little bit of research on that. What do they look for? What kind of space do they need? And I think they're not going to find us. We're going to have to go find them. And the only way we'll ever know if they will come to our community is if we go out and we sell it. And so, I think traffic counts, visibility from the highways, and one last comment, best oatcakes in town, North Pole.
Anyone else have any additional comments? Yes, Bill, Dan Lund.
Yeah, so that's a great idea, and I've actually spoke with Chris Onken of the Wings in Newport, the owner there, and he's got 7 new retail spaces to fill, and I said, if you can get a grocery store in there and you need just a little bit, come talk to the city, because that's really important. So we're having those conversations. The city's not in a position to mandate retail. The market drives things, and we can push here and there, and we can support redevelopment, but we can't do the heavy lifting. We don't have the resources to just put things there.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Kevin Chapdelaine.
Just quickly, thank you. the big communities and oftentimes the folks that are our competition, the St. Paul's, Minneapolis, and Bloomingtons, and maybe even Woodbury's of the world, can afford to buy property and clean it up and offer it for development. We don't have those millions of dollars to be able to do that sort of work. So that's where we have to do the work that's been mentioned around me here, that maybe go out and have these conversations and be more creative. But we are a transportation corridor, and we offer almost everything a business wants, easy in, easy out, and close to all the cities.
Thank you. Anyone else? Then we'll move on to the next question. It goes to Kevin Chapdelaine first. What are your ideas to increase city revenues and or decrease city expenses?
Well, it's a lot easier lately to increase city revenues, and we're back to development again. And I won't dodge the decrease revenues or decrease expenses question either. But we find ourselves in an excellent budget scenario, and we have for the last few years, and the one that we're going to be approving here in the next couple of months will be the most fun I've ever had in a budget season because of the increased revenues from all the development, whether it be infill housing or some of the bigger developments, and that's put us in a very good position. And there's a lot of kudos to go around between staff and previous councils as well. As far as reducing costs, boy, we are a very thin, tight budgeted community, and it's because until recently there wasn't any excess money, so previous mayors and councils did a very good job, I think. I'm going back to when I was mayor and since then, really cutting costs. So short of losing people, which I don't want to do, I don't really know how we substantially cut costs.
Thank you. The question now goes to Nathan Knox.
Thank you. My idea is increasing revenue and decreasing costs is authorizing also a temporary committee of budgets and finances to see what spending is unnecessary, what spending is necessary, and what is needed to help improve business revenue, like road taxes, streamlining business regulations, and also more community involvement with businesses, government, and the community of the people. Thank you.
Thank you. The question now goes to Dan Lund.
Thank you. So we've had amazing growth over the past 4 years, and it's provided an opportunity for us to invest in some long-standing infrastructure issues, including our new fire hall, city hall, public safety building, without increasing taxes on homeowners. And we've seen those numbers, and it's really an amazing thing. So we expect to break ground on that this spring. As far as reducing expenses goes, I think we need to continue to make those investments in infrastructure. We have a number of neighborhoods that still need street reconstruction, need stormwater handling, but we should do that at a pace so that we don't push that cost on existing homeowners. We don't need to raise taxes to get that done. Another way we've increased revenue is we're at the final stages of negotiating a lease for an electronic billboard to bring significant new revenue to the city, but I'm actually in favor of dedicating that new revenue towards discretionary spending, including the library, more recreational activities, and capital improvements for our parks and trails. Again, that's a way we can benefit the city without pushing the costs on existing taxpayers.
Thank you. The question now goes to Bill Sumner.
Yes, increasing revenue or decreasing expenses. Well, I'm a financial tightwad, and I've been an auditor for the state of Minnesota for quite some time, so I look at the budget very closely. And as has been previously stated, it's pretty tight right now. I don't think there's a lot of avenue on the cutting expenses, particularly since we've wanted to build this new service center for the city for many, many years. Now we're finally in a position with our income to build that. Now, as far as the additional revenues that we've gotten, the infill housing has been met with great success. These are very high quality, high value homes on the smaller lots, which are currently what is being demanded by the market. So we hear some people saying that there should only be large homes on large lots. That's not what the market is driving, so I continue to support that kind of development for Newport to increase revenues.
Thank you. The question now goes to Marvin Taylor.
This is a tough question. I mean, I haven't delved into the budget numbers as much, but there's no question our tax rates are relatively high in Newport, and there's reasons for that. And I've had some communications with Mayor Lund and Councilor Chapdelaine a little bit too. And you know, I think we all can agree that we're not a city that spends a lot of money. You know, and I think it's hard to cut unless you can refine your scope. You know, and I think that's some of the issues. Perhaps Public Works, we have lots of land and little nuggets of parcels everywhere around town, and maybe there's a way of streamlining some of that. And I think one of my big priorities, I'd like to see that riverfront park come and thrive. But if we do something like that, does it need to become tightening up somewhere else to keep the balance? And so I think the things that we're doing, yes, on the revenue side are positive and sustainable. I think we can keep these revenue increases. I think they're very feasible to continue these into the future years. And so as those revenues come on, I think the City Hall Fire Hall is absolutely a key investment, but other things need to be brought on more slowly.
Thank you. The question now goes to Lori Elliott.
Thank you. Well, I think we can all agree on sort of reasonable tax levies and maximizing use of our tax dollars. We contract for a lot of our services, and that's one of the ways we save money is by using local partners. I mentioned code enforcement earlier, and we contract for that service, and a number of other services as well. A couple of the ways that we are raising money for our community is we're going after grants for our I&I, which is rainwater getting into the sewer system. We're not always successful, but I think we need to continue to pursue those. Within the current bonding bill that is stuck at the state, there's $2 million set aside to help with this rainwater issue. That's a no strings attached at the moment. I'm holding my breath that we get that bill passed before anybody notices that there's no match required. So we are going after money to increase revenues and to help our taxpayers to fund some of these. You know, we've got two big ticket items left kind of on our docket, and one is the road issue, and one is this infill and infiltration of rainwater. Thank you.
Thank you. Unfortunately, that was our last question.
Oh.
So we are now going to go to closing statements, and we will start with our two candidates for mayor, and we'll go in the reverse order that we began. So we will start with Dan Lund.
Well, thank you again to the League of Women Voters and for all the candidates for being here tonight. I made notes on your ideas, and I think we have a lot to continue to work on, and we've had great success over the last 4 years. Every one of you has been a part of that, and a number of more folks beyond those who have decided to run for election this time. I'm excited to have served the city over the past 4 years. I'm excited for what the future will bring. We're in at least a 15-year strategy that has gotten us to the place where we are now. They cut spending and built up the fund balance as stage one. Stage two was taking advantage of that financial position to invest in development like Bailey Meadows. And now stage three, we get to do the fun part, which is reinvest in the city. So I would like to continue to be a part of that. We're starting with City Hall. I'd like to see more investments in our parks and trails, and certainly for us to continue our work in rebuilding the streets and improving stormwater handling. So thank you.
Thank you. Now with her closing statement is Lori Elliott.
Thank you, and thank you also to the League of Women Voters. I think it's important to listen to all sides when you're making a decision and knowing that there'll be different points of view, and I think that just makes for a better outcome at the other end. My leadership style is to sort of analyze information, seek consensus, and then move into problem solving. I offer a different point of view because of my background and experience in local government that's coming up on 3 decades. And when I ran 2 years ago, the fire station was one of my priorities, and it's really exciting to see that come to fruition. I want to thank the people who submitted questions. You did a really excellent job, and also the panel, and you can only see one of us at a time, but we are all nodding and paying attention, and this is just a great group of people. So whatever the outcome is, just know that you've got a real solid group of people running to represent you. Lastly, vote for me, and you can learn more about me at Lori Elliott for Mayor #4 on Facebook. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Those are your two candidates for mayor. Now we will hear from the candidates for council, and we will go in reverse order. So we will start with Marvin Taylor.
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and the South Washington County Telecommunications Commission. Your work is more important now than ever because this is our only public event. And since the last election, the South Washington County Bulletin has ceased to publish. So our opportunities to have these types of forums is, I think we all can recognize and appreciate it even more than ever. I was in the audience 4 years ago, which we unfortunately don't have a physical audience here, and I watched several of the candidates up in front of them. I had 3 boys with me because my wife was working at the library, and so I had a 1-year-old, a 6-year-old, and an 8-year-old. I cared about hearing from you, to hear, I think it's important that we do this, but I asked my 8-year-old afterwards, what did you learn? And his answer was, we have lots of problems. And I think tonight's conversation, yes, we recognize that there's problems, but I think there's a lot more reason for optimism now than 4 years ago in this town. And I think we look at things like our residential development with an average sales price topping $350,000 would have been unthinkable before. And I think we're moving in the right direction. We need to keep moving in that direction.
Thank you. Next with this closing statement is Bill Sumner.
When deciding who to vote for, it doesn't have to be complicated. Choose the council member your neighbors have relied on for 12 years of positive results. Please re-elect Bill Sumner, Madam Moderator.
Thank you. Next with this closing statement is Nathan Knox.
Thank you. I would like to thank everyone who made this possible, and everyone who is tuning in home will watch this present and future. My campaign site link is https://Nathan Knox for Newport City Council 2020.blogspot.com. Please tell your friends, family, neighbors, and everybody you know about the upcoming elections. The general election is November 3rd. Educate yourself about the candidates, decide for yourselves, and go vote. If you don't vote, I have 2 things to tell you. If you don't vote and you do not get to decide the result you want from your government, there's no one to blame but yourselves, and there's nothing to fear except the fear of inaction itself. Thank you.
Thank you. Next with this closing statement is Kevin Chapdelaine.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and the South Washington Telecommunications Commission, as everyone else has said. I get the hallowed last word. I was so hoping for that. Well, as I said before, and I try not to make a big deal about it, but I've been around a long time. I know a lot of folks. I've had a lot of experience. I've been retired for a while, so it makes this a lot more fun now. I've got more time to delve in and do stuff and help staff out during the day. And I'm too old to make a big, run to the Senate or governor's mansion or anything out of this thing, so it's just me trying to help out my community. But I did plan, if I got the last word, and Councilor Elliott took a little of the storm away from me, but that's just fine, because I did want to mention that everybody sitting up here is good people, hardworking people, and I think however the voters decide this election, Newport will be just fine going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. The League thanks the candidates for their participation, SWCTC for broadcasting this event, the City of Woodbury for the use of their facilities, our League volunteers, and you, the audience, for your attendance and interest. Let your voice be heard. Vote. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.